Few scientists admit that the theory of evolution actually breaks the law. No, it is not a U.S. federal law or even a local law, but it is one of the most basic laws of physics in the entire universe. Albert Einstein was the one who discovered it. It is referred to by a big word, entropy, also referred to as the Second Law of Thermodynamics. What does entropy mean? It simply acknowledges the fact that a physical object has a tendency to decay, break down, get worse, etc. over time. It can never self-improve. This applies to all physical objects throughout the universe. This entropy can appear to be reversed by an outside force. A dilapidating house can be repaired by, say, a handyman. A broken down automobile can be repaired by a body shop, a mechanic, etc. But these require another outside, that is, intelligent force to temporarily appear to reverse the law. Scientists have overwhelmingly agreed on the fact that this law has never been disproven. And the theory of evolution denies, that is, directly contradicts this law and opposes what all scientists know. But, you may say, evolution deals with biology, not physics. That is a fair point. Except for the fact that this law would have been in place before life began, if you believe in the theory. In other words, if the proper amino acids or proteins had begun to come together accidentally, which could never occur by chance even in billions of years, then they would have immediately begun to break down and completely disintegrate long before a single cell could ever be formed accidentally. And even biologically, organisms do seem to be subject to a type of entropy through mutations. So it would have been entirely impossible for these minute but extremely complex building blocks to have ever formed accidentally. But some evolutionists may say that we have the sun to give us the energy needed to overcome entropy. In other words, the sun is the outside source that is needed to negate entropy. So some evolutionists may insist that this law does not apply. Thus, this law does not affect the theory of evolution on our planet. But in reality, the very opposite is true. Why? Because raw energy is not the same as intelligent action. So, the energy from the sun actually increases the problem. Raw energy is destructive for an inanimate object, especially if it is energy from the sun with its UV rays. The only way this is overcome is when there is an energy conversion device that converts the energy into a useful force. A lawnmower, for instance, will be destroyed by pouring gasoline over it and lighting the fuel. This is raw energy being added to the machine, but it is destructive. However, this energy from the gasoline can be beneficial if the gasoline is used properly by a carburetor and engine. These devices combined together are the energy conversion device that is needed in order to make the gasoline usable and actually beneficial. Although not a perfect example, this does show at least a part of the problem. Likewise, energy from the sun helps destroy things that it comes in contact with, unless there is something to convert the sun's light into something that is usable. There is something that naturally does that, a plant. There's also some algae, phytoplankton, and cyanobacteria. It produces chlorophyll through photosynthesis and converts the sun's light into usable energy. The sun does obviously benefit organisms in other ways, but plants, or algae, or phytoplankton, or cyanobacteria, had to be the first living organisms because they are the only ones to convert the light from the sun into usable energy. Other living things get their energy from these plants, either directly or indirectly. Other organisms cannot use the sun's light in the same way and convert it to usable energy through photosynthesis because the conversion mechanism is missing for other organisms. But this creates an enormous problem for those that believe in the idea of evolution. The ability to convert the sun's energy must exist before the energy arrives from the sun, or else the sun's energy would begin to immediately break it down and destroy it. But the energy must be there first in order to form, through the process of evolution, the energy conversion device. And yet this energy from the sun is destructive unless the plants already exist. It is a chicken and egg scenario, except in this case, it is impossible for either to be first. If either the plant or the sun is first, then the only result is destruction. It is truly a catch-22 situation. This implies that both the energy and the conversion device, that is the ability to make the chlorophyll in this case, must come into existence at precisely the same time. Of course, that would not be backed up by any science, evolution or not. No evolutionist that I am aware of believes that the sun and plants came into existence at precisely the same time. In fact, most evolutionists believe that the sun existed billions of years before any life began on Earth. And so it would seem that we have an insurmountable problem. Any scientific law always negates or eliminates any theory if there is any kind of contradiction. In other words, it appears that the second law of thermodynamics eradicates any chance of evolution of life from even beginning. Please share with your friends if you enjoyed this lesson.